and a doctor actually from Iran of his point in time, Dr. Habib Levy. He was very, very famous. He was born in the year 1886 and he passed away in the year 1984. It's a person that will have, like, let's say, a significance, let's just say, in Jewish history, without doubt, inside Iran and inside various other places also, because he was a historian and did, just huge amounts in of itself all throughout his life. I think there's actually a website over there, habiblevy.com, which I want everyone to actually look into. And we're going to explore a few of the highlights of his life. He would live in Los Angeles at the end of his life. He was an author. He would have books and really did delve into a huge history of the Jewish community of Iran. And we're going to use him as a resource in other videos also as time comes on. So anyone, you are tuning in live at the moment, welcome first of all to our community as we are exploring history with regards to a famous doctor over here. Okay, so I just talk about him, the early part of his life. I think he was born to a middle-class Jewish family in Tehran. He was, and he would study as a youth in Paris, in France, over there. Remember, we've spoken about France, Paris on various occasions before. We talked about the links, let's just say, at that point in time, especially with the Alliance school system, how that could, let's say, Frenchianize or secularize as a part of the Jewish communities also over there. So that's something very, very interesting we will have to point about. So, anyone tuning in live, we're exploring a few of the highlights of the history of Dr. Habib Levy, who was a famous historian of his time in Iran. And also, at the moment, we happen to be recording a series at the moment of the Jewish community history of Iran of yesteryear. So we've read 2 parts within regards to that. And I would recommend everyone to look into this more and educate more in of itself. So then we will actually just learn more within regards to him. So within regards to Dr. Habib Levy over here. So I'm actually looking at some interesting pictures of him, which is available on the internet. There is actually a lot of information available online within regards to him. And I would recommend everyone to actually search him after the video or at another time, just at a later stage, and just learn more about him. There's actually a famous picture of Chacham Habib Levy, and I think it's actually associated with in many, many different books, Persian, Iranian books in of itself, and very, very famous one. So I would recommend everyone to look into that. Okay, so let's explore a few more highlights, or many highlights within regards to the famous doctor's life over here. So so he would learn in Paris at a young age. He'd be very much part of that structure in of itself. He would, just state over, yes. So remember, he was born in 1884. It was 1884 was a time period where it was a large Jewish community, you could say, in Iran on that window of time. And he was greatly influenced, let's just say, by cultural movements in Europe at the turn of the 20th century. He would return to his native Iran. So after a period of time, he would be in France, he would return to Iran, and Dr. Levy would pursue various memberships and leadership positions in a few local Jewish organizations. I think it was in 1920 he was chosen as a board member of the central branch of the Iranian Zionist movement as Inspector General over here. In 1926, he was appointed to the post of Vice President. And during the Second World War, Dr. Habib Levy played a significant role in the transfer of Jewish children from Poland who had escaped their war-torn birthplace to emigrate to Israel. While temporarily he would take refuge among members of the Jewish community of Tehran. That's actually interesting. I'm reading here, he was born in Tehran in an area called Qajar, Qajar. He would eventually die in Los Angeles, as we can learn more about over there within regards to him. So very interesting. Just to add on some more things, he learned in a school called Alliance school system in Tehran, and we've spoken about the Alliance Israel Universal school over there. So that's how probably he would end up going to Paris. Now I hear different quotations when he was born. According to one opinion, it says he's born in 1886. According to another opinion, it was in 1896. So I'd recommend everyone to just research on that. So within regards to that, so that's just very important to just know that from a chronicling point of view. I think when he studied in Paris also, he studied dentistry, which is interesting. I don't think we've spoken about a dentist over here, and would complete a doctorate in Paris and that's how he would actually end up starting his Zionistic, let's just say, activity, with the help of someone named Alexander Marmorek, who was a Jewish Austrian-French physician and a microbiologist, and he himself was a Zionistic political activist, let's just say, in of itself. So it actually adds on more information within regards to him at that point in time. So he would work והציונית, he would work within regards to Zionistic organizations. מיוחד בעקבות הצהרה Balfour in the year 1917, the Balfour Declaration in that year. I think it was in 1920. הוא נבחר כחבר לוועד המנהל של התנועה הציונית באיראן. And I think it was in the year 1926, he was appointed a deputy president or minister of this organization, in himself a prominent position in himself. הוא כיהן גם כחבר הוועד המנהל של Alliance בטהרן. So he had a huge, let's say, a major position in the Alliance educational framework in Iran. ונמנה בין מייסד בית ספר היהודי קורש. There was a school actually called Kuresh over there, so that's very interesting. So any Iranian historians, please write comments if you heard of any of these places over here. And very, very interesting. We know, obviously, Kuresh from the famous Purim story, Megillat Esther. Many of you will be familiar with in regards to him. So that's something that doesn't need any introduction over here. About now, friends, anyone tuning in live, welcome to our community over here as we're exploring some of the history within regards to a famous doctor, a historian of Iran, a Zionistic activist, a very famous one we have to point out, Dr. Habib Levy. So he was very, very famous of that point in time, and some of that I think we did mention about on a couple of occasions here in this series. And definitely we like to not just speak about rabbis here in this series, we do very much like to speak about, let's say, prominent people of that specific era in of itself, especially historians we like to speak about. We've spoken probably about at least a dozen famous historians of yesteryear, so that's very, very interesting. So we can actually say more within regards to him over here. Just to add on, he was very active when he was young. I think 1929 he would go to the Zionistic Congress in Sweden, in Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken, at that point in time. בו התקבלה החלטה על הקמת הסוכנות היהודית מרגע ששב לאיראן החליט לבקר בעקבות בארץ ישראל ולהשקיע במניעתה. אחד מבניו עלה לארץ ישראל בשנת in the year 1936, I think maybe one of his children, if I'm not mistaken, actually go to Eretz Israel. This was about 12 years before the state formed. במקביל הוא עסק במקצועו כרופא שיניים. Seemingly he would work in the dentistry field in of itself. I'm just going to take a short break just for half a minute, and we will continue over here, friends. Over here. Yeah, thanks everyone for being patient as we're learning about a famous doctor and a historian who actually came from Iran. So במקביל הוא עסק במקצוע כרופא שיניים, obviously he started in 1922, he'd get his qualifications over there, and הוא עבד בבית חולים הצבאי בטהרן. He worked inside the hospital in Tehran of the army even itself, and I think there's someone named Shah Falobi, if I'm mistaken, היה בן מטופליו. So this famous Iranian happened to be one of his patients, if I'm not mistaken. בהמשך הוא פתח קליניקה פרטית ועסקה גם ביבוא תרופות לאיראן. So he'd open his own private clinic, he would become very popular. במהלך מלחמת העולם השנייה, during the 1940s, הוא היה פעיל במרכז הצעירים היהודים של איראן, שנועד לעזור לפליטים היהודים מהשואה. So I think at that point in time, some people from Poland would actually come for refuge over there. וסייע בין השעה להעברתם של ילדי טהרן לארץ ישראל. He would very much help the younger people of Tehran go to Eretz Israel. במלך שנות 40, during the 1940s, הוא הקים שני מועדונים קהילתם יהודים בטהרן. He would actually start up with that. And I think in 1949, הוא היה בין המייסדים של עיתון יהודי איראני בפרסית בשם העולם היהודי. So he would not just be a doctor and take on all these positions, be a man of the community and a Zionist. He will actually be really a doer at that point in time. where they will, I think, working even in press and the magazines. מלבד עסקו בציבורים השונים, במשך 40 שנה, דוקטור חביב לוי אסף חומר ושקד על כתיבת חיבר היסטורי מקיף על תולדות יהדות איראן. He would actually chronicle over the let's say the histories and the families of Iran. הספר פורסם לראשונה בשנת 1960. It will be publicized in the year 1960 in Persian. בשלושה כרכים, it was in 3 volumes. It had a special name, היסטוריה של יהדות איראן. I think way later on in 1999, הספר תרגום לאנגלית תחת השם, I think it would be translated the history of Jews of Iran, like a comprehensive edition. This was 27 years ago. Dr. Levy שקד על כתיבת הספר בעידוד יצחק בן צבי לאחר שסקרת, so Yitzhak Ben Tzvi was a famous I think president, if I'm not mistaken, of the land of Israel in of itself, and al toldot Am Yisrael, so very much he'll be working in that. I think he had connections, if I'm not mistaken, with the University of Tel Aviv also. That's something that we very much have to point out. So let's explore a bit more within regards to him. His research over there was phenomenal. And during that 40 years, we know that his extensive research on the history of Jews of Iran, there was no such detailed work had ever been done prior to this specific endeavor. He traveled to many countries and researched various sources in order to obtain the objective documentation necessary to author his book, which was first published in Persian, as I said before, in 1960, and he was an active pursuit of his extensive research on the history of Iranian Jews prior to his death at the age of 88 in Los Angeles, in California. And he's buried in Israel by his family as he wished. And as I said before, I think in 1998, the University of California, Los Angeles, created the Habib Levy Distinguished Visiting Professorship, and this was in Judeo-Persian Studies. Tel Aviv Center for Iranian Studies dedicated the Dr. Habib Levy program to the advancements of academic study of the Jews of Iran in his honor. As I said before, in 1999, his publication in 3 volumes would be written like in Persian, and it was actually abridged by someone named Hushang Ebrami and translated in English by someone named George Mashka, and published in 1 volume. It was by the Mazda publishers in Costa Mesa in California. So that's very, very interesting. So these are interesting things to bring about. So you can see he was very, very well decorated. There's a lot of information online on his website, the Dr. Habib Halevi website over there, which I recommend everyone to do it. He actually, I think, chronicles over the Jewish history. He does an entire timeline within regards to it. Like I think it's divided into 11 parts. And it starts with the first part is introduction, the second part the Achaemenids, the third part the Seleucids and the Parthians, the fourth part the Sasanians, the fifth part Advent Islam and rule of the caliphs. And the sixth part was different Dalamites, Ghaznavids, various different issues talking about 200 years till 1038 CE. Part 7 is about the Mongols, the Timurids and other places till 1502 CE. The 8th part is Safavids, which is till 1722. And part 9 is the Afsharids and the Szans, which goes till 1794. Part 10 is the Qajars, from Muhammad Khan to Muzaffar al-Din Shah. I think it was in 1794 to 1907. And part 11 was the Constitutionalist Revolution and the Pahlavi dynasty. This was between 1907 to 1979. So very, very interesting guy. I'm just looking at his book at the moment of Habib Levy, which is very much pointed out over here, and I'd like to share it also at one stage in time, but that's just over there. He has a lot of information. There's a whole photography and memoirs inside his website. That's something I have to very much point out also. And it's they say that the world must, on his website, it states over, the world must acknowledge the contribution of the Jewish people to civilization and the reality of their return to their home and after 2,000 years in exile. The sharing of information and raising of cultural awareness among peoples is the most effective means to fight the scourge of hatred. Yeah, but that's what he very much talks about it. So we can see he passed away in 1984. It was in Los Angeles. He was actually buried in Jerusalem, according to his will, and as a symbol of his yearning for his historical homeland. So you can see how much he yearned to come to Eretz Israel. Now, I think this was, it was also called The Quest of the Diaspora, this book. It was edited, as I said before, by Hushang Ebrami and translated by George Mashka, if I'm not mistaken. There's a book called World Views and Ideas, which was in 2022. collections of socio-cultural essays, edited by Nahid Pirnaza Oberman, and translated by someone named Farshid Delshad, if I'm not mistaken, who I think he himself has a PhD. And it was actually published by the Habib Levy Cultural Foundation in Chino Hills in California, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very interesting this happens to be. And Farshid Delshad is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was a lecturer of Persian and comparative linguist at the University of Freiburg and University of Bern. If I'm not mistaken, I think he had a PhD. He has, and very, very interesting. He's the first Persian translator of The Knight in the Panther Skin, a Georgian medieval epic poem written in 12th century by Georgia's national poet Shota Rustaveli in of itself. And he's written many, many books, Farshad has in of itself. So that's something that we very much have to point out. We can say more within regards to him. I think, yes, as before, he passed away in 1984 and was buried in Jerusalem. Zichro. I think also there's a university in California, Los Angeles, will actually bring things in his memory. In 2010, יצא לאור האוטוביוגרפי של דוקטור חביב לוי בתרגום פרסית לעברית. So it was in 2010 when his autobiography will come out at that stage in time. So that's very, very interesting. And he would work, I think, established hotels, if I'm not mistaken. He would donate, I think, to various different Zionistic organizations. And especially including, maybe he was connected to King Solomon Palace Hotel in Jerusalem. And it could be he owned some hotels. Also, that's something I had to have to look into. I know him and his family, I believe, left Iran permanently, obviously fearing their lives at the time period of the revolution. So that's something interesting. That's interesting. That's an interesting, famous picture of Dr. Habib Levy. It's, if I'm not mistaken, a meeting of the Persian Zionistic organization in Tehran. It's pictured next to him. It features famous man Shlomo Cohen Tzedek, the founder, I believe, of the Otzar Torah organization. So another famous man is someone named Ayub Lukman Nohari, if I'm not mistaken, was a famous Jewish politician and representative of the Iranian parliament in Iran. And Nohari, and there's also someone Shmuel Chaim, was an Iranian Jewish journalist and also once again a Zionistic activist, and was served as a member of the Majlis of Iran in the 1920s. So that's very, very interesting also. So so that's interesting over here. So I've just got this picture at the moment of the group of people, the famous people at the time period of the Zionistic group activity where they all met together. So it's interesting just to point out which person was Dr. Habib Halevi, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll try and get a picture for us inside the thing over here, inside the thumbnail of the video. Yes, I think we've got the picture of him, hopefully. There's a famous, just taking it from this famous photo over here. And friends, anyone tuning in live at the moment, welcome to our community over here as we're exploring the life of famous doctor from Iran, Dr. Habib Halevi, who was very, very famous and someone that we've spoken about here on various occasions before inside this series. That's something that I very much have to point out over here. So don't forget, anyone tuning in live here at the moment, welcome to our community. And don't forget, please, to subscribe. I want to talk a bit about the chief rabbinate of Iran in of itself, of that window of time. The chief rabbi roles they had in Iran, it was interesting. It was around Dr. Habib Levy's time. There were various different chief rabbis. I don't know if it was necessarily an official position or not all the time. Rabbi Yedidia Shofet, for example, was credited as chief rabbi between 1922 to 1980. And he was known as a worldwide spiritual leader of the Iranian community. Now, I think different cities had different chief rabbis. He passed away himself in the year 2005. And he was actually born in 1908 in Kashan in Iran. And I think there's a rabbinic family that goes back as many as 12 generations. And he would actually move to Tehran shortly after the Second World War. And he was fluent in several languages, including Persian, Kashi, Aramaic. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And I think he corresponded with great rabbis like Rabbi Ovadia Hodaya and Rabbi Ovadia Yosef and various other people also, which is very interesting. And his wife name, just as a side thing, was Rabbanit Heshmat Shofet, if I'm not mistaken. And one of his sons, Rabbi David Shofet, is an Iranian-American rabbi and the founder and chief rabbi of the Nessa Synagogue in Beverly Hills. Now, another rabbi that will be way later on, I think his life would overlap. Yehudit Halevi, if I'm not mistaken, was someone of the name Rabbi Uriel Davidi, if I'm not mistaken. He would be between 1980 to 1994 over there, just so he would have many years. He was actually born himself in 1922, so they would probably know each other. He was also a theologian, and he was born in Chachna Nasa in Iran. He died in the Neve Yaakov settlement in Jerusalem, and he would actually be the last 12 years of his life over there. His father was Chacham Meir Davidi, and will continue in his tradition. And I think in the 1970s, Rabbi Davidi, along with late Chief Rabbi Chacham Yedidia Shofet, made annual visits famously to the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, as a representative of the Jewish community in that time. And I think in 1979, shortly after the Islamic Revolution, Davidi and Shofet, along with a few other members of the Jewish community, Iran, met with the new leadership of the Islamic Republic in order to preserve the rights of the Jewish community among Persian Jews. He had been known as, obviously, Chacham Uriel at that point in time. So that's very, very interesting. So that's another interesting. We're just going to take a short break before we conclude this video. Here about a famous doctor, Dr. Habib Levy over here. So just watch your space. We're going to come back in 1 minute and just to speak another just short word within regards to him, friends. So just wait and be patient for a minute and we'll come back. Hi, shalom everyone. Thanks for being patient over here as we're exploring a few of the highlights of Dr. Habib Levy's life over here. You know, we did speak about Shlomo Cohen Tzedek, a famous philanthropist of Iran, also just in yesterday's edition. We're trying to go through an entire series and the science behind the famous people. But Sultan Suleiman, he was also known as, very, very famous figure. He was also a historian and lived between 1891 to 1964. So his life will overlap with Dr. Habib Levy also. That's something that we have to very much point out. And he was from Tehran in of itself, and was very much the founder of the Alliance school system over there and did huge amounts. He was also very close with and did a lot of public and cultural activities in of itself. He was one of the founders of the Jewish Association of Tehran, hosted various meetings, and was really one of the founders, the president of the Institute of Otzar Torah, if I'm not mistaken. And it was actually, there was a famous Polish rabbi, Rabbi Levy, who hopefully we're going to speak about in the coming days, who really would actually help with founding this network of school. And he was also a writer, just like Habib Levy was. And I think yeah, very interesting. He would have, I think, 6 children, 4 daughters and 2 sons also. So that's very interesting. So we're speaking about Dr. Habib Levy over here today in this special edition. He was a famous doctor in Iran. And, you know, I don't think we mentioned him that much beforehand. So it's important. I think various websites, even especially in Tel Aviv University and the various other places, will actually give a commemoration within regards to him. I can actually see that there was quite recently, there was a Dr. Habib Levy collection for Jewish Iranian history and heritage. And I think it was the Laura and David Mirage and the Levy family inaugurated the Dr. Habib Levy collection for Jewish Iranian history and heritage. This was back in November 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And I think his granddaughter is someone named Laura Mirage, if I'm not mistaken. The husband is, it's called David Mirage, also, that will very much work to preserve like the life and in of itself and the people and bring them inside. So that's very, very interesting. I recommend everyone to learn more about them. Our friends over here, community over here, we are exploring the history within regards to great rabbis of yesteryear here inside this series, famous philanthropists, and so on and so forth. So please don't forget to join our community and subscribe, as we've got fantastic content over here for all of Am Israel. We're about to go inside Shabbat, Parshat Yitro, this Shabbat here in Israel. So wishing all a Shabbat Shalom at the moment. Don't forget, please, everyone, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We are nearing 9,000 subscribers here at the moment, which is a phenomenal achievement. We're going from strength to strength. If you descend or are related to any of these famous rabbis that we happen to be speaking about here inside this series, please don't hesitate, and please, I'm going to appreciate it if everyone can subscribe to the community and the channel, learn more in general about them, also the Jewish history, and we'll go stronger. And many of you Persian, it's key time period in Iran. We hope there'll be this regime is going to fall, obviously, and it's going to be better times, better relations between Iran and Israel, and hopefully just just goodness for everyone over here. So wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom, and take care. And watch over the previous videos we recorded quite recently on the other Persian rabbis and public figures also. So take care and thanks.